Do you have a single scintilla of fact to support anything that you're saying? Can you think of one example of lies, of corruption? No, you just said off the top of my head examples of the corruption and lies they were telling us in 2015.
Well, they didn't come across with the answers.
Corruption and lies, please.
What happens when a fiery Brexiteer calls in expecting to steamroll a debate, but instead finds himself dismantled piece by piece? Imagine this. You tune into the radio expecting a civil chat about politics, maybe a little back and forth. Instead, what you hear sounds more like a championship boxing match, except the punches are verbal and only one side is landing them. This is James O'Brien at his absolute sharpest. No shouting, no theatrics, just surgical precision. Every claim the caller makes, corruption, lies, betrayal, is met with the same calm but relentless demand. Where's your evidence? And with each round of questioning, you can feel the caller's foundation cracking. It's the perfect storm. Reason clashing with raw emotion, cold facts against heated feelings. And as the pressure builds, you realize this isn't just a phone-in segment. This is a masterclass in how quickly weak arguments collapse when tested by hard logic. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.
The worstness, if that's a word, is not that we've left the EU. It's the fact that there was a pandemic followed straight after by a war.
Yeah,
you can't blame what's going on.
It's not, though, is it? Yes,
it is. This is the point you're missing.
Okay. Well, I mean, where are you getting your information from? Because I'm getting mine from the IMF, the Bank of England.
The IMF.
Yeah,
right?
and the Bank of England.
They're the people that said we're going to have...
But where are you getting your information from?
They're the people that said that we were going to have go into recession and we're the only one that's not going to make any money.
We've got...
Just before the pandemic, in between the small gap between leaving and the pandemic, this country was making more money.
Okay, mate.
Right?
Yeah, okay. Where are you getting your information from about the 4% hit to GDP having nothing to do with Brexit? You heard the Governor of the Bank of England yesterday.
And LBC, to be honest.
Pardon?
LBC. I listen to you and I listen to what they say. What they're saying
well, you haven't heard me say that.
What they're saying is, right, that the 4%, drop is based on Liz Trust.
No, they're not saying that.
That's what it's from. That's the period that they're taking their analysts from.
It's over the last 3 years.
Well,
she was only Prime Minister for 10 minutes last year, mate.
So out of them last 3 years, what have we had?
So it's 100. Is it 100 million or 100 billion a year? It must be 100 billion.
No, tell me what we've actually had. We've had pandemic.
Yeah,
we've had war.
Yes, I know, mate. But there's literally nobody who thinks Brexit's had nothing to do with our decline, because all the other countries have had pandemic and war.
Only Remainers.
No, Andy. Just have a little think about this. We're doing worse than all the other countries that had the pandemic and the war as well.
What, before or after?
Before or after what, Andy?
Well, I don't know. You're asking the question.
Yeah, okay, let me try again. The things you're blaming for our problems happen to all the other countries that we're being compared to, and we're still bottom.
Right. So the immediate problem that we had, and I didn't agree with Miss Truss being leader of the party.
Don't make me remind you that we're looking at 3 years of economic damage. That's not because of Liz Truss.
Over 2 of them years, right, we was everyone in the world was struggling, right? But just prior to that, we was one of the best
but why do you keep saying that again? Where are you getting that information from? You think that in 2018 we were going great guns economically?
Yeah.
Okay, where are you getting that information from?
Same place that you get yours. Well, media.
No, but you're not. Else. You're not though, because that's not an opinion, is it? That's counting, and no one has provided figures to back up that. Let's pretend you're right, okay? Let's pretend that the British economy was the best, doing brilliantly between 2016 and 2018. We hadn't left the European Union then, of course. But today...
No, just after we left the EU.
Yeah. But we didn't leave.
Officially left
But we didn't leave, did we? That was 3 years ago.
And look at the corruption, right?
Yeah.
That was coming out of the EU when we was trying to leave. Lie after lie after lie. Refusal to give us all the facts about what was going on.
And what's your best example of that, Andy?
Well, the fact that when we signed up for the common market,
hang on a minute. Carry on.
For us to join, right?
Yeah.
We agreed, wrongly in my opinion, to pay 16% on top of anything that we buy.
Yeah.
Right.
So what was the lie what were the lies they were telling us in 2016, 2017?
They wasn't coming across with when we asked for.
But you just said all the corruption.
They refused to give it.
Yeah, you just said all the. Listen, Andy, I'm going to keep you on until. Yeah, you just said all the corruption. You just said all the corruption and lies, and I just want an answer to an example.
Now let's break down what's really happening here. The caller charges in with all the confidence of a prize fighter, shouting about corruption, lies, and a supposedly sinister European Union. But the moment you actually start peeling back the layers, the entire case falls apart. Yes, the EU is a massive political machine, and like any sprawling bureaucracy, it isn't flawless. Nobody pretends it is. But to label it as some dark, corrupt empire, that's not an argument. That's frustration dressed up as fact. Look closer. Every treaty, every directive, every regulations, it's all published in black and white. Nothing is hidden behind some secret curtain. The information is there for anyone who bothers to read it. So why do people still feel like they were deceived? Because time and time again, British politicians twisted EU rules to fit their own domestic agendas. They pointed the finger at Brussels whenever they needed a scapegoat. And ordinary voters, bombarded by this fog of spin and half-truths, ended up confusing that political theatre with reality. The "they lied to us" narrative is convenient. It's emotionally satisfying, but it doesn't hold up under scrutiny. There's no concrete deception to point to. What it really shows is how national leaders use the EU as a shield to cover their own failures. And when James O'Brien calmly demands just one solid example, the silence on the other end of the line says it all.
Well, they lied about what was happening.
Go on.
Well, everything that the EU was doing.
Yeah, go on. What?
I mean, they lied about the vaccine that we gave them.
But that was long after Brexit, Andy. You
but
just said
it doesn't matter.
Well,
they lied.
If you say
to lie.
I don't know what you're talking about, and I mean that politely. But if you say, and then there was all the corruption and lies that came out just before we left, you have to.
You're not telling me that the EU, the unelected dictatorship of the EU, didn't lie.
All right, but I can say that they didn't if you can't give me an example of them doing it. So go on, have another go.
Off the top of my head, right, because I've just done a long drive.
Okay.
And I didn't expect to be on here.
Did we ring you? Did we take you by surprise? We've got to start. Hang on a minute. You've got to stop ringing people unexpectedly. All right. Poor fella's just had a long drive. Yeah. What's he going to do if LBC are on the phone and they put him live on the radio and he's got to actually explain? Sorry, mate. I had no idea that we took you by surprise this morning. But crack on.
That's all right. Yeah. I mean, you take the vaccine.
No. You just said off the top of my head examples of the corruption and lies they were telling us in 2015.
Well, they didn't come across with the answers.
Corruption and lies, please.
Not so much they didn't lie.
Well, you just said they did.
Hang on. All right, I'm getting a little bit... Right. It wasn't so much that they lied. Right.
No, it was the corruption.
They didn't give us the information that we requested about figures, about this, that and the other.
What information is that then?
Any information that we asked for, they refused to give us.
When did they do that then?
When we was campaigning to leave.
What information do you think that you're talking about?
All the finances and what they're taking and that.
Who on earth told you that we didn't have... Who told you that we didn't have access? We were in it. We were part of it. When you say they, you mean we. Who told you that we couldn't access the information that you don't know the name of?
And that, they refused to
Who told you this? Who told you this?
It was on the news.
What documents? off the top of your head.
Certain documents.
Yeah, what document?
I can't remember which documents they were.
Do you have a single scintilla? Do you have a single scintilla of fact to support anything that you're saying? Can you think of one example of lies, of corruption, of documents? Yeah. Go on.
Right, it might not have been them, but since then...
No, before.
This is what we were dealing with.
Yeah,
people
go on,
that
before, Andy.
About the vaccine.
What was the lie about the vaccine, Andy?
They said that it killed people.
Who said that? The European... Are you talking about the European Union now?
Later on, they just wanted to discredit us.
OK, let's go back to the central question.
And here's where the caller's argument really starts to crumble. He pivots to vaccines, one of the most complex rollouts in modern history, and insists the EU lied about them. But when you actually check the record, that claim doesn't survive 5 seconds. Yes, Europe's vaccine rollout had hiccups, supply bottlenecks, contract disputes with pharmaceutical companies, and approval delays compared to the UK. Nobody denies that. But hiccups are not lies. Logistical hurdles are not corruption. Every single step, from trial data to safety reviews to final approvals, was published in black and white by the European Medicines Agency. Open, transparent, debated in public. Nothing was hidden. Nothing was swept under the rug. And then comes the most reckless part, the claim that vaccines kill people. That's not just a misguided opinion. That's dangerous misinformation. Here are the facts. Vaccines went through rigorous testing involving tens of thousands of volunteers before they were approved. Regulators in Europe, the UK and the US all pored over the evidence before signing off. The overwhelming conclusion? Vaccines are safe, effective and life-saving. For of course, like any medicine, there were side effects, sore arms, fatigue, the occasional fever, and yes, in extremely rare cases, complications like blood clots. But those cases were vanishingly rare. The risk of the virus itself was thousands of times greater than the risk of the jab. So when James O'Brien presses the caller for a shred of proof, and all he can muster is conspiracy-flavoured guesswork, it doesn't just fall flat. It exposes how emotion and fear can twist a narrative until it becomes almost unrecognisable from reality.
What do you want? What do you want? What do you want?
I want to continue to not be in the EU.
Why?
Why? Because I think they're a corrupt organisation.
Give me some evidence of that.
I'll give you evidence.
Go on.
The evidence is what you see.
Yeah, go on. What can you see?
Where's our car industry?
What?
Where's our car industry?
Well, it's just hit the lowest level since before the Mini was produced.
Why?
Because there's supply chain issues, but a large part of it is the fact that we're not in the single market anymore. So our biggest market...
No, because we never sold cars in the single market.
Right. I mean, this is a little bit like...
Very few cars. The only people that prospered, right, about vehicle manufacturing in the EU, and why we was in the EU, was Germany and France.
So why is it worse now than it was when we were in it?
Well, because we haven't had a chance to rebuild it. We've had a pandemic and a war on.
And how are we going to... So have Germany.
Eh?
So have Germany.
Yeah, and Germany failed to support Ukraine.
So why is their car industry doing so much better than ours then?
Why? It's because over the 40 years that we've been in there, they've been systematically bringing our
Go on.
industry down to nothing.
How did they do that?
By selling off the assets that we've got in this country, like car. Why don't we...
So Germany sold off... How did Germany sell off British assets? Just have to dump that because you swore. I'm just going to take you back. So how did Germany sell off things that were owned by Britain?
Well, they bought the Mini.
Well, then that is then owned by the Germans, isn't it? Yeah. I don't think this is going very well, and I don't think you and I are ever going to meet. Can you just...
because you're such a staunch Remainer that you will not accept...
Well, what do you think I should accept? What is the thing you've said to me that you think I should dwell on after we say goodbye?
Well, there is nothing I can say that you will.
I promise you there is. I've asked you several times for some evidence, some examples.
Well, I've told you evidence. Where's our car industry?
But that... Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Where's our 4 transits built now?
Yeah.
And then came one of the boldest claims of all, that the European Union crippled Britain's car industry, and that Brexit would somehow breathe life back into it. But here's the truth. That story doesn't survive contact with history. The decline of Britain's car industry didn't begin in Brussels. It began decades earlier, in Britain itself. Poor management decisions, chronic underinvestment, and outdated production methods in the 1960s and 70s left British car companies limping while rivals in Japan and Germany surged ahead. By the time the UK even joined the common market, the damage was already baked in. And here's the kicker. Far from suffocating the industry, EU membership gave it a lifeline. Why did global giants like Nissan, Toyota, BMW and Honda set up shop in Britain? Simple. Tariff-free access to the single market. That's why Sunderland's Nissan plant became one of the most productive car factories in all of Europe, exporting the bulk of its cars straight to EU customers. That wasn't sabotage, that was opportunity. So when the caller insists the EU destroyed British car manufacturing, the facts tell the exact opposite story. Brussels didn't wreck it. Brussels kept it alive. The EU didn't drain Britain's wealth. It opened the door to the largest market on earth. And it certainly didn't lie, because every rule, every treaty, every figure was laid out in plain sight for anyone to read. The real betrayal wasn't from the EU. It was from decades of domestic mismanagement at home, cynically disguised as someone else's fault. And that's the final lesson here. Emotion makes for fiery radio, but when the shouting stops and the evidence takes the floor, the narrative collapses. James O'Brien didn't just win this debate, he exposed a fundamental truth. It's easy to argue with feelings, but far harder to stand against the weight of facts. Until next time, this has been The Whip Line. Thanks for tuning in.